Alright, so it's August, and this is my update for August. Keeping up with those promises. So it's been an interesting month, to say the least. Let's start with my most recent adventure, as we'll put it. There was a point in time where I was quite certain that lizards, bats, and mice would be my biggest house pests. And yesterday I was quickly reminded that Ghana has other things in store for me. So I was getting some water yesterday after I came back from farm, and my water filter is on top of this 6-foot shelf. And as I was reaching to fill my Nalgene with water from my water filter, I saw this giant black thing move, and I realized it was a snake. So I slowly and surely backed away very cautiously, and the snake decided to slither down onto another shelf and lay in one of my bowls and hiss at me. And when it decided to stop hissing, it then continued to slither down even further underneath my shelves, where I then couldn't see it anymore. And that was alarming, the thought that there could be a snake under a shelf and I can't see it. So, I then realized that my keys were on the shelf that the snake was, and that I was locked inside of my house. So after some serious planning, I acquired my keys, rightfully so, and went outside and very ever so smoothly and calmly started shouting "snake," and no one was around. And so after some time went by, I finally got someone's attention, and they came over with 2 other people and some really large sticks and bludgeoned the snake to death in my kitchen, which, I'm not really one for killing animals or reptiles of any nature. And when I tried to reason with them about sparing its life, they laughed at me. And so, as you know, they bludgeoned it and then flung it out my door, where I then had to duck because it was flying at me. The dead snake laid on the grass in front of my house, and that was that. So everyone, of course, thought it was funny that there was a snake in my house, and I kept thinking about how snakes apparently can climb vertically, and that's upsetting. And it was a rough night sleeping last night, because of course I thought everything was a snake, to the point where this morning when I woke up, I checked under my bed and under my shelves with a flashlight to see if there was in fact a snake, and it wasn't. So snake free, everyone, snake free. So yeah, that was the big thing, the snake in my house. So now that we've got that checked off my list of things that have happened to Brian in Ghana, we're good to go. So, update-wise on projects, I'm really excited actually, because I have been working on a lot of different food security stuff. For those of you that know, back in the States, I did a lot of work with food security projects on a research side and also on the ground side. So I'm really excited to be able to be working on these projects while out here in Ghana. Food security is a big issue in Ghana. In one of the regions in Ghana, Upper West, you actually have one of the highest percentages of food insecurity, which is individuals' inability to consistently access affordable and nutritious food on a regular basis. We actually have something here in Ghana called the hunger months, which is the time when crops have been cultivated and harvested, and there are no crops that are being cultivated for a period of time, and families are living off of the food that they grew from the previous season. It's a big problem because families will experience 3, 4, sometimes even 7 months of hunger, meaning that they just don't have access to food. And partly because the reason why families experience that is because they are not cultivating crops year-round, because they're only waiting for the rainy season to come in. So one of the things that I'm working on is increasing irrigation throughout the year at a cost-effective means. So we're doing a lot of rainwater harvesting projects. I'm actually working on a gray water recycling project right now, so that's super cool. But one of the things that we're trying to do is actually demonstrate that we can cultivate crops year-round. We don't have to wait for the rain, and also trying to encourage families to have home gardens so we can limit the amount of hunger that families are experiencing through the year, and really just demonstrating that we should always have a garden or something that's cultivated just to feed your family, and then after you're feeding your family is when we can start talking about making money from farms. So it's a huge problem in Ghana, just the inability to consistently access food. And on top of the accessing the food, the affordability is a big issue. Fruits and vegetables are extremely expensive when you enter into the more northern regions of Ghana, because there's not as much food access, also limited amount of rainfall, so you don't get a lot of vegetative crops. You get a lot more drought-resistant, heavy grain crops in the north. So affordability of food is a big problem. And then there's also the issue of having nutritious food. Again, lack of crop variety, also just not having a lot of experience with different types of crops. There's not a lot of conversation about nutrition, so there's a huge malnutrition problem within the country. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to work with some of the most phenomenal health volunteers in Ghana, and we're planning an in-service training to focus on nutrition, and we're specifically trying to target mothers and families that have small children to help increase nutritional value of meals at home, to improve nutrition in kids. And a part of that is talking about having home gardens. Part of it is talking about different types of fruits and vegetables that can be introduced into your diet at a very low cost, and also introducing how to cook with those different types of foods. And what's cool about that is that it's actually very similar to some of the work that I was doing in the US before I came out here. One of the things that's always been very humbling to me is that you have all these different types of fruits and vegetables that people don't even know exist, but can grow in your backyard. And it's one thing to just introduce a crop to somebody and say, hey, you can grow this. And it's another thing to be able to say how to actually use that crop. And so that's something that we're working on right now, is not only introducing these crops that are already indigenous to communities and work well in the climate and are already a part of individuals' diets, but also talking about the different types of uses of these crops and the different types of values for these types of crops. And that to me is food security. It's demonstrating what you have, what you can already do, and how to use it. And there's just this disconnect that a lot of farmers here in Ghana and even people in the United States have a problem with, is just not having the full picture of the benefits of different types of crops. So it has been amazing to work with some of these health volunteers to really improve nutrition in Ghana. I've learned so much from them, and hopefully they've been learning some stuff from me too. But it's just been really great to be able to partner with the health sector and talk about how we can work together. So that training is coming up in October, and I'm really excited to be a part of it, and I'm really excited to venture into this direction of food security, focusing on nutrition. And I hope that it's something that helps a lot of volunteers. Aside from that, I've also been working on just different ways to help other Peace Corps volunteers become introduced to food security and the different types of projects that they can do at their site to really help combat this issue of food insecurity in communities, and we can all work together to make sure that food is more accessible and nutritious for our communities. And yeah, so those are some of the things that I'm working on right now. I mentioned some gray water recycling that I'm doing, which is actually taking the bath water that families use and putting it on gardens that they're cultivating at home. As I said before, one of the biggest issues is the fact that Ghanaians wait to cultivate their crops for when the rain falls, and due to climate change and inconsistency with rain patterns you're seeing a lot of people not able to cultivate their crops. So I'm trying to demonstrate the different ways that we can actually have gardens at home to feed ourselves. And every day we bath. In Ghana, it's very common for people to bath 2 times a day because of how extremely hot it is. And we wash dishes all the time, so this is water that is getting thrown out that can be used or have multiple uses. So I'm working with another volunteer in my group right now, and we're working on some gray water filters that are very basic, using mosquito nets, moringa seeds, and gravel to help clean the water. And then we're also using some direct gray water irrigation techniques that are just hoses connected to people's bathhouses. So we're really excited about that. Really hopeful about that. I'm hoping that people will see it, catch on to it, and be really excited, or more motivated to have home gardens. Aside from that, I'm working on a bicycle repair project, which is super cool because I think I mentioned in another video before that one of the closest farms is actually 12 kilometers. And it's a huge problem where you get a lot of farmers that actually live out in what we call the bush, which is really the jungle, which is really these very rural, dense forestry Guinea savannas, as I'm told they are called, where they're cultivating their farms. And so kids get pulled out of school to help harvest the crops when the season's right and all these things. Transportation's an issue when the rain comes, so we're working on a bicycle repair project to help increase mobility and access to farms year-round. So that's exciting. A lot of people are stoked about that. I'm trying to think of what else. Read something interesting the other day that I thought maybe some people would find interesting. But one of our neighbors is Burkina Faso, and they are just a permaculture powerhouse. Them in the Ivory Coast, the amount of things that they're able to cultivate year-round with limited rainfall, same type of geographical setup as Ghana, but the amount of agriculture that they're able to produce is twice the amount of what Ghana is actually producing, and it's because of their implementation of permaculture. And so I was talking to somebody who I work with here who's actually from the Ivory Coast, and he keeps telling me that the reason why Ivory Coast and Burkina Faso are such agriculture powerhouses is because it was the French that colonized them, and the French were farmers, and the English were not. I have no idea the type of merit that is behind that, but for my anthropological friends out there, maybe that's something you could do a little research on, get back to me, let me know your thoughts on it. But I thought it was kind of cool, and I thought I'd share that. Anyway, other than that, yeah, it's things are good out here. I survived the snake. Life is good. I saw some monkeys the other day. I'll post some pictures about that. Every day I'm impressed and honored to be working with these great minds that are owned by Peace Corps volunteers and Ghanaians, and things are going well. So I hope everything's groovy back home, and yeah, alright, next time.